What is the finalis of a tonus? Today let's talk about this topic about Cantus Firmus, even polyphony, Renaissance music in general, which is very interesting and can have a lot of troubles. Welcome to the new video, I'm Riccardo, a Musicus Practicus, and today let's talk about Renaissance music. In particular, we have a question by Ali, who is studying Cantus Firmus, the Cantus Firmus levels of the Musicus Practicus course here. The Renaissance path, Musicus, I show you, no, we can even go, which is even faster. Where is Safari? Here. Musicus Practicus, here. There is this level about Cantus Firmus, I'll show you, and we have a very interesting question about the finalis. We are in chapter 4, so now I show you the screen, this way it's better, you can see all the things. And in chapter 4 you can learn all about the structure, at least the most simple structure of the tones. Why the most simple structure? Because then we have other elements which are further elements of, for example, subtone. After chapter 4, in chapter 5, you learn subtones, and here something different starts to appear. For example, we have this question by Ali. Let's read it. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? On opera. Okay, here. So, oh, okay. Hi Ricardo, I have a question about finalis. Is the finalis just the note on which the melody ends, or is it the note that the listener perceives as the central note? For example, in Psalm tone 3, tertius tonus, I understand that the note alla mi re has the central note, but is its finalis still e la mi? And the point is that in tertius tonus, none of the endings are on e la mi. Usually, in a modern approach, we consider the A note as the tonic, which is understood as a central note. Is this also the case in the 6th, 15th, 17th, and 18th century music, or is only the finalis of the melody important, or simply the note on which the tonus is built? This is a very interesting question, and the topic is very big, so I cannot talk about all of these things because are things connected through all the course. That's why there is a course, because there are more than 100 lessons about this. Now, but we can give some important impressions and answers. Now, the tertius tonus is very strange from this point of view because we have the finalis, which is different. The third tone is do re fa intonatio. Let's take the Cantus Firmus folder. So Cantus Firmus here, Cantus Firmus, we are do re fa Santos, we are here, and let's go to our section. So Beatus vir, secundus tonus, tertius, third tone. Here it is. Ut re fa. So the repercussio is fa, ce sol fa ut, dixit dominus domino meo. This is the cadenza mediana, and then sedes a dextris meis. The regular ending is fa re fa mi re, and it's very interesting why we have the finalis, so the last note of the seculorum amen, the EUI, ending on alla mi re. Very strange, because if you study chapter 4, you know that the third modus has the finalis on e la mi. Mi fa sol re mi re fa mi sol fa mi re mi la sol fa mi. So how is it possible for a subtone to end on another note? Yes, it is possible. We can even consider these subtones has a little different nuances between the tonus, and we have between the tonus in terms of the scalar building. So it's not only the tertius tonus, the third tonus, which ends on a different chorda, because here we have the end of alla mi re, re fa mi re, but even the septimus tonus, you are studying so you'll see, is totally different. We have the end of the septimus tonus on de sol re, and that's why the septimus tonus, Adriano Banchieri says, is very similar to the primus tonus or primus modus on D, because the end is on de sol re. Why? Because the septimus tonus is D, dixit dominus domino meus, sedes ad dextris meis, ending on alla mi re, but this is too much acute, so it is transposed down a fifth in the practice. So this is so one thing is writing, one thing is the pitch where is where it is practiced, so it's practiced down a fifth. D starting on F out, D si dominus domino meo, sedes ad dextris meis, la sol fa mi re, which is very very interesting. Even here we don't have any finalis on D, on C sol fa ut, which is the septimus tonus transposed the fifth down. Listen to septimus tonus. Puer natus est nobis. The introitus of the Christmas Mass is septimus tonus. Ut sol, fourth species of the diapente ascending. But the tonus of the psalm here is quite different. So in the third and in the septimus tonus we have these differences. Now, why is this important? This is important because you'll study this in chapter 8 of the tones and modes level, so the last level of the Renaissance up to now, because then there will be even counterpoint. Now you are in course contents, you are in this level, which is the Cantus Firmus one. So we are going to tones and modes, the fourth level, quartus tonus I was saying. And we have chapter 8, which is from modality to tonality. You'll see that some tones became specific keys. For example, the tertius tonus became A minor and even in E minor, but frequently A minor. So let's go in the tones and modes folder where I show you this, and let's go to chapter 8. Where is it? Here, chapter 8. Okay. Let's take an example. So we're at the very beginning. We have the prelude of the third tonus by this is Nicolas. How to say this in French? The composer is Nicolas Lebegu. You'll tell me in the comments. Okay. Here we have the third modus, or better, tertius tonus, which became A minor, as you can see. And we are in the 18th century here, and the end is on Alla mi re, as you can see. Why? Because it's singing the tonus, the psalm tone. La, then Dixit Dominus Domino meo, sedes ad dextris meis. Then there is the organ in the middle, and it will end on Alla mi re, even the organ. Now, we talk about how to practice Renaissance music. I don't have for you an answer of the why, but I tell, because this is more a musicological thing arriving from the ancient Gregorian sources. Here we're talking about how in the Renaissance and even in the Middle Ages they used to do this way. They used to sing music. Now, the septimus tonus, you'll even see in this example that it has two possible endings. One for the psalms and another one for just playing the piece. But I'll let you discover this at the end of chapter 8, from modality to tonality. Now, so with all these elements, let's come back to your question. One more thing, as Steve Jobs used to say, one more thing. Let's see very quickly the chapter 2 of tones and modes, about the 8 tones. Here I put a lot of examples, and the septimus tonus, secundus tonus, here we are in the, no, later, ahead. Look how many things we read and play all these examples. Septimus tonus, tritus authenticus, here it is. Tritus authenticus, missolidus, no, tetrardus authenticus, yes, here there was a typo, I checked, I correct, it's not a tritus, it's a tetrardus. Okay, this is the septimus tonus, with the finalis regularly on G sol re ut. But if we want to alternate this with psalms, we have to do another thing. We cannot use that tonus, the tonus of the structure. We have to use this one. This is the septimus tonus by Banchieri, and it says that the 7 tones has the same correspondence as the first tonus, primus tonus, with cadences in the same places, and fugue similarly. It differs only in that it renders more languidly because of the first modulates with the parts of the quadro, while these 7th with bemolle. So it's like a modern D minor. sol, fa, la, sol, re, fa, la, sol, mi, fa, mi, do, re, la, sol, fa, mi, re, mi, fa, sol, la, fa, mi, re. And then we can sing the psalm. Fa, dixit Dominus, Dominus meus, sed sta dextris meis. And then you can play. So you have to make a distinction between some tones which has the ending for the psalm and other tones which have the ending for the for example the scalar tones. This is something we'll study more in depth in the tones and modes level. That's why there is another level about polyphony, because then in polyphony with the organ, with polyphony with the counterpoint, these things is even more complex. But start now understanding that the finalis is the note with which a tonus ends. In terms of chant, when we talk about chant, we talk about the chant of the office and the chants of the mass. But when we have psalms, we can even have some other finalis, some other tastes. This is especially the case of the secundus and the septimus tonus, secundus, of the third tertius and the septimus tonus, the seventh tone. So, what to do? Keep in mind this, because it's very important that you remember this thing. We have sometimes more than one interpretation. You could even say that the septimus tonus is very similar to the ninth mode. Yes, and you'll discover in the fourth level, tones and modes, how this tonus is very similar to the septimus tonus in polyphony ending with de sol re and the minor third is very similar to the in exito Israel, the tonus peregrinus. So remember, we have the scalar tones quite similar to the modes, but not always the same, even because there are other things, but this is tones and modes level. In some psalm tones, when you sing the psalm, you can have another ending. And in the polyphony, in organ music, we can have a correspondence between the key and the finalis in order to, play the organ with the choir without any problem. So the topic is very big, it's not easy to understand, but you're doing well, because if you notice this means that you are understanding that the things about modes and tones in the Renaissance is even more complex of how it is taught today, unfortunately. But now you can learn it thanks to all the courses of the Renaissance path you can find here. So yes, the tertius tonus can have different finalis depending on if you're singing a psalm or if it is an antiphon. And you'll see this in that chapter 5, when you'll study and I will finish, otherwise it becomes an entire lesson. In the Cantus Firmus level, there's here, Cantus Firmus, in chapter 5, at the very end, but actually you can even skip to that, I suggest that you do this. Chapter 5, go to the end, where we study the introiti. You'll see the introitus of the tertius tonus, of the third tone. You'll see that the finalis of the modus, here, the finalis of the chant, so the introitus, the antiphon, is on E la mi. Mi, sol, fa, fa, mi. And the psalm, the finalis of the psalm, arrives on A la mi, re. Mi, sol, la, mi, do, re. And then you start again the introitus and you arrive at the finalis here. And remember one more thing, that it's difficult that the psalm tone is sung, the psalm is sung without an antiphon. So you'll always have an antiphon to sing or something else to play in order to finish with E. So remember that the psalm is even within a wider context, like here in introitus. So go to this lesson and check it so you can understand how the third psalm tone is embodied within the third tonus, and all the others study Cantus Firmus, link in the description, start with Solmization, and then you can activate one subscription for all the courses, you start even the other ones and learn music as you have lived in the Renaissance.
This is an introitus of the first irregular tones, primus tonus irregularis. This is a melody of the sextus tonus perfectus mixtus imperfectus. And this is a melody of the primus tonus perfectus commixtus imperfectus major with the seventh. In the education of the Renaissance musicus, which actually extends up to the beginning of the 19th century, after learning Solmization, Cantus Firmus was a very fundamental step. Cantus Firmus is the Gregorian chant as it was practiced in that period. But with Cantus Firmus we mean much more. We mean the study of the melodies, the 8 and 9 ecclesiastical tones, perfectus, imperfectus, authenticus, plagalis, the study of toni mixti and commixti, mixed and commixed, and also toni irregulares, irregular tones. The study of the 9 and not 8 psalm tones. The study of the effect that these tones have on our mind and in the sounding universe. And many other things that you can discover downloading the free ebook that I've prepared for you, where you can discover all the things you can learn in each chapter of this step of your initiatory journey to become a musicus practicus of the Renaissance. So don't waste your time, go to this link and get your ebook.